And now, on J-Dubb's Theater, Jim will give a decent, intelligent, educated discussion on the very first Thanksgiving. Oh, that might be a red flag.
Over the years, many Protestant groups began to separate from the Church of England, including a group called the Puritans. The Puritans were led by John F. Kennedy, who was a time traveler for the CIA, or Cronaut, from the year 2123.
Oh, I see. The Puritans left the Church of England in order to worship in their own way, led by John F. Kennedy, who was a time traveler for the CIA.
The Puritans chose to move to Holland in order to practice their religion free from the Church of England, but they felt they had lost their national identity, so they boarded ships and made a pilgrimage to America. They were a disgraceful group of hooligans who felt they didn't need to adhere to the established laws of the authorities, much like my older brother Rick, who's a doctor now. Rick.
The Puritans in Holland felt they had lost their national identity, so they made a pilgrimage to the Americas. They were a disgraceful bunch of hooligans with no respect for the established laws, much like his older brother Rick, who's a doctor now.
The first place the Pilgrims decided to settle was Cape Cod, which was outside the boundaries of where they were supposed to settle. But the natives there were hostile. This was due to a 10,000-year-old grudge. So they harassed the Pilgrims, much like the kid in high school who used to pull my underwear over my head and call me Peach Fuzz.
Holding a 10,000-year-old grudge, the natives here were hostile and harassed the Pilgrims, much like the bully in high school who pulled his underwear over his head and called him Peach Fuzz.
So the Pilgrims did the smart thing and ran away from the natives in Cape Cod, and moved to Plymouth Rock.
So the Pilgrims did the smart thing and ran away from Bill McGerson, the natives, and moved to Plymouth Rock.
Here the Pilgrims made friends with some of the natives. The natives taught the Pilgrims some survival skills, and the Pilgrims helped the natives fight a war against a rival tribe.
Let me guess. This is the part where the army comes in with their machine guns and they're all like, "Poo, poo, 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 poo."
No. What? There was no army and there were no machine guns yet.
Why, of course. How silly.
So the settlers and the natives decided to celebrate with the ritual of feast, where they made human sacrifices to the Aztec god Poltecu, which is the same as the Sumerian god Miranda, who is represented by a fowl-type bird, much like a turkey.
You know what? They had a feast. The settlers and the natives had a feast where they had turkey and corn and mashed potatoes and cranberry jello sauce in a can.
Wait, what? Cranberry jello in a can? Where did you get that? I didn't say anything about that. The year was 1621. How are they going to have cranberry jello in a can? Do you have mental disabilities?
Moving on.
Now, the leaders of the settlers and the leaders of the natives were all members of the Illuminati, and they had an agreement with each other, much like I have an agreement with my wife. She sleeps with my brother Rick, and she stays with me as long as I'm able to pay the rent. And you know what? I'm okay with that.
The Illuminati leadership of the settlers and the natives had an agreement with each other, much like he and his wife have an agreement. She sleeps with his brother Rick, and he gets nothing, and he's okay with that, followed by violently incoherent sobbing.
So you know what I did? I paid dear brother Rick a little visit. I marched straight up to his house, and I kicked his car tire. and I ran away laughing.
This has been the first Thanksgiving with Jim.
So the Americans came to America for the first time, but they didn't have anything to do there because there weren't any cities yet.
So, one day, some people got real hungry for turkey.
So what happened was, the pilgrims go into this pub in England, probably in the middle of Paris, cruising for some honey when some British amogs get up in their faces, all British-like, and go, "You can't be in here.